Let's talk fall gardening. Now, over the last few years, I have had some success, but quite a few failures, and that is because I've been kind of planting according to other people's climates. So this year, I am taking a whole new approach to my fall gardening, and I wanted to share that with you. So what is fall gardening? It's basically a reintroduction of those cool weather crops into your garden. So for people who have those 200 plus growing days, it's when those heat-loving crops are starting to die out and the cool weather's coming back, and then you can go ahead and plant those cool weather crops. But for us here with our short season, I have 124 growing days. Often my tomatoes and peppers are barely just ripening when it's time for the frost and everything to stop growing. So my new approach is going to be looking at my fall garden more of like as a succession sowing, basically a second planting of things, and also using an intercropping method. So instead of having a whole new area just to plant out in, I'm going to put my fall stuff in and around things that are already growing in order to provide a few things for them. Because the biggest factor that has affected me these last few years is my timing. Because we have to grow a lot of these cool weather crops during the heat of the summer. I've been way too late in the last few years. If we don't get things planted early enough, we're not going to have enough of a season left in order for them to grow. A good way to tell when to generally start your plants is to know your average first frost date in the fall. Mine, I think, is like September 16th, and then you count backwards from there. So if something needs 60 days to maturity, I'm going to need to plant that 60 days before my average last frost date. I generally also like to add an extra week or two to account for germination, as well as slower growing because we are getting less light during the day. The days are getting shorter already, I know. And also those nights can be a little bit cooler, so they can just take a little bit longer to grow. And then once that frost hits them, while they won't die, they're generally not going to grow very much. So we want to make sure we have nice mature plants when we get our first frost. Now, the second big factor affecting us is our space. Is we're not going to be able to pull out our tomatoes and peppers and put in our fall crop because they're still growing and producing for us at this time. So this is where my intercropping comes into play. I have a bunch of rows of tomatoes. So what I will do is count backwards. I have carrots that say take 60, 70 days. I'll count backwards, which is pretty much mostly now. I am planting these carrots out, and that is going to be my fall crop of carrots. Tomatoes will be maturing pretty much about the same time, but they're going to be nice big plants. And this way, those carrots also get some shade from that heat of the summer. I'm starting to harvest things like my lettuces and my broccoli. And as I'm harvesting things and space becomes available in my garden, I'm going to be thinking about putting these cooler weather crops, tucking them in there where they'll get a little bit of shade. Shade cloth is another great solution to throw up for those cool weather crops that we have to grow in the heat of the summer. The other problem we come across is watering. So some of our more mature plants, they don't need to be watered as often, but when you're starting seeds or growing little seedlings in the heat of the summer, you're really going to have to watch in watering them because they will die pretty quick if they get too thirsty. So what exactly am I growing in my fall garden? Well, these are things like my brassicas, my root vegetables, and my leafy greens. So for my brassicas like broccoli, cabbage, I am actually starting to harvest my spring crops of this. So what I like to do is actually start all my brassicas, my fall planting in seeds. I've just started them, and I'm going to grow these in my greenhouse. This way I can keep them cool and shaded. And then once I start harvesting everything, I can go ahead and plant some more mature plants in order to be able to get that harvest before the frost. Now, when it comes to things like root vegetables, those like to be direct sown. So like I said, my carrots are taking 70 days, 60 days. I am planting them right now. And then things like radishes that only take 30 days, I'm going to wait and plant those more towards, middle of July, middle of August, put some shade cloth up, and they will be able to produce for me. With my leafy greens, I'm doing kind of this similar to the brassicas. I'm going to be starting them very shortly in some trays and let them grow a few weeks before I'm planting them out. Again, I will probably be putting shade cloth on those, and they need lots and lots of water, so don't forget to water those in the heat of the summer. It's funny, I keep talking about this heat, but I mean, we're going into July and our days are still only 20, 22 degrees Celsius. So even though we will get heat waves in those 30-degree days, we honestly don't have to worry about that heat so much as in the south. And in Alberta here where I am, there's no humidity. With the days getting shorter, cooler nights happening, a lot of these cool weather crops can actually grow perfectly fine all year round here. So that's just a quick little introduction to fall gardening and kind of what I've learned over the years and how I'm approaching it this year. If you have any questions, please leave them below. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.